Okay, one of the parts that the machine needs to have exchanged once in a while is the fret cutter. This blade gets dull after, say, 300 to 500 guitars, and this needs to be exchanged. What you do is give us a call here at Plek, and we'll send you a sharp one module. It comes in a box, and if you unpack it, it looks like this, has the cover on it. And you need to change it. There's a procedure which I'm going to show you right now how to do this. For this procedure, you need to have your sharp cutter. You need to have the long T-hole 4mm Allen wrench. This will be part of your toolbox, so you would find it there. You use this to loosen the cutter, to take it out, and also to fasten the new one. You need a 2.5mm Allen wrench to remove the cover, and you need the calibration, FC calibration unit, which is used to calibrate the fret cutter. It goes into the dock. And finally, you would need a guitar to calibrate on after the on-device calibration is done. Okay, so we'll start off with the software. What to do with the software first, or how to get into the process of changing out the fret cutter in the software, and then we'll move into the hardware area. When you're in the Plek software, you need to go to Tools, and right on the top you can find Change Fret Cutter. You click on this, and now you will get a list of numbers. If you look on the side of your fret cutter, the important thing here is to look at the FC number and find that in the list. So we have FC 128. We find that in the list, and I'll select that. So you select, I am sure, yes, and I click OK. Now the machine moves to the position where you can open the door and access the machine. So the first thing I want to do is remove the old cutter. There's a cable that comes out of the motor on the bottom, and it's plugged into this controller box in the back on the side. So I unscrew the plug, and at one point I can pull it out. There you go. Now I take my 4mm long T-wrench, which I found in my toolbox that came with the machine, and there are 4 screws that hold the fret cutter in, and usually I start with the back left side, and then the right, left again, and then right. Okay, and here I already start to hold the motor with my left hand and unscrew with my right. At one point I can just take it out. So I take out the old cutter, lay it aside, put my tool on the bottom of the machine. Now I take my new cutter, and it has a cover. I'm just going to remove it with a 2.5mm Allen wrench. So my cover comes off, place that aside. And now I place the cutter up against. There's two notches here on the back and 2 holes which you can guide them in. So goes into position, and I hold the motor while I'm tightening the right screw. Now I can let go already because I've tightened that screw. I go around and tighten all the screws here. And I go to have the plug. I press it in. And then I can tighten it. Okay. Now I will close the door, and then the software will prompt me to do some things. And I'll close the door. Now if we look at the software, now it shows me the status of this new cutter. We have the top shape, the center shape, and the bottom shape. They are all enabled, meaning that they're all available for use. The top and bottom shape are set to automatic selection. That all depends on the size of the fret wire that you've entered. The machine will either select the top or the bottom shape. The center shape here is not auto selectable. You can, if you are in the virtual fret dress graph, activate the center shape. These crosses means that these shapes are not calibrated yet. So what do? We click on OK, and now we come straight into the calibration window. When we click on calibrate, the machine wants me to open the door, and we take our FC calibration unit. I want to align this stick to the correct position. This stick is used for calibration. The fret cutter moves up to the stick, cuts into it, so the profile of the fret cutter is there, and then the sensor will measure and get all the information. There's, on top of the dock, there's a stopper block, which is a black piece, and with that you can set the position correctly. So if you loosen the star knob on the bottom, the stick can be moved. You place the FC calibration unit, this part, up against the dock, and then you can push the stick up against the stopper block here. Okay? And then you tighten the star knob on the bottom, and then you see this distance is set correctly. Next, you loosen the star knob here, and you slide the FC calibration unit into the dock. Then you tighten the star knob. Now it's secure, and we can close the door. So we close the door. And now the sensor will move up to find the stick position. Okay, and now the fret cutter can move forward. Let's just do that from there. Okay. Now the fret cutter searches for the stick. It moves forward and measures its no load amperage, and as soon as it finds resistance, it pulls back. Then the sensor measures the stick one more time, and the cutter moves forward, but this time it cuts a bit deeper into the white stick and cuts its profile into that. Now you can already see the profile of the cutter in negative form. Now the sensor does a X scan, so it moves from side to side, and then you get to see this graph. Now the first thing we see are this red text and the number in brackets. Ideally we want these two flanking points, which we have here, and a center point, but we want this in the center of the graph around here, on the 0 point. So the software has suggested us to move the Fretcutter over by 0.57 millimeters to the right. If this is in red, then we need to correct by this number in that direction. So right 0.57. We click on no, then we get another picture or another display field. And here we can actually move the Fretcutter. And we take this number 0.57 and we type it in here. And then we click on right, because that's what it says down here. We click on right, and we go apply changes and continue. Now we've corrected the Fretcutter position in X. First it measures from right to left, and then from left to right, and then it lays those two numbers over, or those two lines over, and gives a final measurement. Now you can see this text and this number has turned green, which means we are good. We are good to go. This scan is within tolerance, so we can say yes. Now the machine or the sensor moves up and scans downwards across the stick, and it measures the profile of the cut and displays it here. This is actually a very good alignment. What we see here are all the shapes. We can see that the lower shape is the largest and the deepest, the top shape is the thinnest, and the center shape is flat. We have the flanking points, which is good, and importantly these green dots, which means this is the center. So we're going to accept this. We can continue, and the machine now, or the Fretcutter, cuts into the stick again, and this whole process is repeated. Then we compare both of these calibration cuts, and if they are identical, then the calibration is complete. And now the second cut is also passed tolerance, and we can transfer the information into the cutter file, which is stored locally. I will just add my initials so we know who calibrated, and we click OK. Now we open the door and we remove the FC calibration unit. We close the door again, and now the process is completed. It says here, Fretcutter 1 to 8 is on-vice calibrated. So we click on close. The next step is the guitar on instrument calibration. Okay, so our on-vice calibration is complete. We have to move on to the on-instrument calibration. So on the screen we click OK. Now we open the door, and now we insert the guitar, our calibration guitar. We strap it in. Okay, here we can change the position of the straps. The back. So important here is that you don't have the instrument strung up. It's not allowed to be strung up. You can strap it in so we can cut, because we're cutting frets. And so it needs to be secured. Now it's secured, we can close the door. Now the software wants us to select a calibration guitar. There's a list here. There's 18 fret, 20 fret and 22 fret. I know this instrument has 20 frets, so I'm going to select that. And after I click open, the machine is going to scan this instrument. So now I'm in the FC on-instrument calibration module. On your bottom left, you have the different Fretcutter shapes to be calibrated. It always starts with the bottom shape, and you can select the fret that you want to use for calibration. If you press on the F5 button, you can see the fingerboard. This is good because then you can see the highest frets that are useful to be used. I'm going to use fret 2 looks good. I want to stay away from 1 and 12. I'm going to select 2 for now. So select number 2. We want to click on the scan button. Now the machine will move to number 2 and the sensor will scan just fret 2 at the string positions. And now we get a graph. And the low E string is on the right and the high E string is on the left. Each dot is the string position, and you can see the radius of the fret. So you have to pretend you're looking from the nut downwards. Okay, so the bass side is on the right, the treble side is on the left. There's a slider, it says set removal. I can bring the slider down, and there's a green line that moves downwards. Okay, I want to set this at 0.04. This is the minimum allowed value for calibration. Anything underneath that, the machine will not be able to calibrate. So we're going to remove 0.04 from this fret. This is our target line. We're going to click on cut. The machine is going to cut that fret, and then it's going to scan again and see how accurate that cut was. So it's divided that cut into 3 passes. Now it's going to measure to see how accurate. Okay, so here it's got a measurement. The red line is what was cut. The green line is still the target. And here you have the different directions, X, Y, and Z. The Z number is in red, the Z number is in red, because you can see it's not quite aligned with the green line here. So all other numbers are within tolerance. If we click on apply, it automatically fills in the correction fields. So we click on scan again. It takes the scan it just did, and we can use that as a reference, and we set our removal 0.04 and cut. Now it's going to take these values and correct them inside the file. Now it's going to scan one more time to see how accurate that cut was. So that looks extremely good. You see all directions are within tolerance. The Z is perfect. I don't think you can get any better than 0. The Y is almost perfect. That's like, yeah. So this is extremely good. I'm going to just click on apply one more time. But you can also see on the left side, bottom shape, OK. So we can move on to the next shape. We're going to select the center shape and scan. We're going to use the same fret, and we're going to set a removal of 0.04, and we're going to cut. Now this time it's going to do the same thing again, but only with the center shape. So in the background, it's taken the values that we had for the bottom shape and has already applied them to the other shapes so that the calibration will move on faster. Okay, that looks very good. It's all within tolerance, everything's green. We click OK, apply, and we can see center shape. Okay, that's fantastic. We're going to move on to the top shape, but for that one, we're going to just select a fresh fret. We're going to click on scan. Now it's going to move down to the 3rd fret and scan there. Okay, now we have the scan of the 3rd fret. We're going to set our removal 0.04 and cut. Okay, looks extremely good too. Everything's okay, everything's within tolerance. I apply and I can see top shape okay, center shape okay, bottom shape okay, and now I can close and my fret cutter, if I look at the information, which I find here, calibrated, check, check, check. I can now start working with my fresh, sharp cutter.